I said, I have to go to Gaza again and watch a Brazilian match with the people of Palestine and in Gaza. So I went to watch a match, a Brazilian match in Rafah. That was one of the happiest moments of my life. Everybody, supporting Brazil, a lot of flags, and we had such fun there.
Hello and welcome. Today we revisit 4 remarkable years of diplomacy, culture and resilience in Palestine through the eyes of a Brazilian diplomat who lived it all. Ambassador Alessandro Candeas, now Consul General of Brazil in Lisbon, has just released his new book, Pilgrimage and War, Notes of a Diplomat in the Holy Land. In it, he recounts his experiences leading Brazil's representative office in Ramallah from 2020 to 24, a period that witnessed both deep human connections and Gaza war. We are honored to have you, Ambassador, on our program. Most welcome to you.
This is a great honor for me, my dear friend, to be here, to talk to you. I miss Palestine. I miss my Palestinian friends. I was very happy in Palestine, and I live it one of the most important periods of my life, both professionally and personally.
Yeah,
so I'm very glad to share this with you.
We share you the same feelings, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be our guest today. And I would like to start with the book that you have finished. Its title is Pilgrimage and War. And this title captures both spirituality and the struggle. What inspired you, Ambassador, to write this account at this moment of time?
Well, actually, I started writing it the moment I arrived in Palestine, because I knew, it was very clear to me that I would be living a very profound experience. So I started taking notes. I studied the history of Palestine, the history of the Holy Land, and everything that was going on since I arrived. And I had already the idea of writing a book since the moment I arrived in Palestine. And I had no expectation of such hard times as the 2 last ones, the 2 last years. I'm referring to the war in Gaza. I was not expecting, of course. We lived with the tensions. I traveled throughout Palestine and also Gaza, and of course it was very obvious that the tensions were mounting, but we were not expecting, such a tremendous war. But as I said, I had the feeling that at the end of my mission, I would have to publish something. This is why I started taking notes, talking to people, organizing the ideas. And as the title suggests itself, I went with a spirit of pilgrim, as so many pilgrims throughout the centuries went to Palestine, to the Holy Land. And I went myself also as a pilgrim, not only a religious pilgrim, but a human pilgrim, professional pilgrim, diplomat pilgrim, if you wish.
Yeah.
And I faced a war, and I suffered with my Palestinian friends everything that happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So can we say that the 4 years you served in Palestine are the years that shaped your understanding of the reality of Palestine and the Palestinian situation, or you have background understanding of the Palestinian situation and you entrenched that or you strengthened that during your stay as ambassador in Palestine?
Yes, of course. Before taking over as a diplomat in any post, you study about the country, you read about the history, you talk to some people, but something is studying in abstract and quite different is living in the countries, talking to people, traveling and visiting, all the cities and eating the food and listening to the music and sharing everything. So it's very different because you arrive with certain ideas and some of them confirm, but others you see that the reality is so much more complex. And
Yeah.
I was very happy to see and to meet a Brazilian community inside Palestine. You
Yes.
know, there are 6,500 Brazilians living in Palestine. Some of them lived in Gaza, around 100 Brazilians. And this community helped me a lot to understand much better Palestine. And I know that your television has also, your media has also a segment dedicated to the Brazilian public, written in Portuguese, and I'm very happy to see that too. So this Brazilian community helped me a lot to enter the deep Palestine. You know? It
Yeah.
was much easier for me to when I visited their houses. I collected, I harvested olives also, and I had splendid
Yeah.
meals all around. So this made Palestine much more alive to me, which is much more concrete than just reading books.
Yeah, Ambassador, as you mentioned, you participation in harvesting olives in Palestine, and we know the very special situation of the olive season and harvest in Palestine. You must be watching the Israeli settlers' attacks on the Palestinian olive pickers these days, and I can say that most of the families were deprived of getting into their olive groves this year because their attacks are unprecedented, really. They killed, they wounded, they set fire to farms. So how do you feel when you watch such news?
Exactly. So I saw that coming. And when I lived in Palestine for the last 4 years, my friends who had families and who had farms, and they were not allowed to collect their, to harvest their olives. So I knew that was already happening. Also, not only harvest of olives, but also fig trees, and also the mobility between one village and the other. Also, I had the chance, for example, a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, to go with a Bedouin family and a Bedouin community and walk through the hills of the West Bank, and I saw how they were attacked. So yes, I'm pretty aware of all this, and I'm very worried that this aggression is increasing. The mobility of Palestinians among their own villages is every year worse and worse. They do not have access to their water, to their farms, and this poses a tremendous problem, not only social security problem, but also economic problem also, because many families depend on their harvests of olives and plantations and cattle raising and water. So this is very worrisome to all of us to see that coming.
Yes, and Ambassador, in your book, you describe the war on Gaza as one of the most intense experiences of your career, and we all watched how you made maximum effort to evacuate the Brazilian nationals from Gaza. If you tell us about this experience and how that mission was difficult.
Yes, I had the chance to go 3 times to Gaza. We had something we call it itinerant consulates. What does this mean? I mean, we do not have consulate in Gaza.
Yeah.
So we had to go from Ramallah to Gaza to help the Brazilian community there. So I went there 3 times, okay, so that we could meet the Brazilian families, understand their needs, and provide the documentation they needed, and sometimes some food and medicine, some documents. So this is why we made what we call itinerant consulates in Gaza. So this experience allowed me to visit Gaza, to see how Gaza, to meet the Palestinians in Gaza and understand them, how strong they are, and how they were suffering also for the blockade, the economic blockade.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to go from north to south. I mean, from Gaza City at the north to the south, to the city called the Rafah, because for 10 years, from 1957 to 1967, there were Brazilian troops in Rafah. What were they doing? That was the first peacekeeping mission of Brazil in Gaza, in Rafah, after the Suez War. The Suez War in 1956 produced the first peacekeeping mission of the United Nations, and Brazil was part of that. So for 10 years, Brazilian soldiers were sent to Gaza to protect Palestinians. So in the Rafah, there was this camp called Brazil Camp. So I went to visit the Brazil camp. I talked to, the local community. We Brazilians, we love football. So we played a little soccer with the youngsters. There was a soccer club there. I visited, some local leaders who reminded that they were ancient ones. And so when they were kids, they remembered the Brazilian soldiers. So they were very fond of Brazil. And also in 2022, in November 2022, during the World Cup, I said, I have to go to Gaza again and watch a Brazilian match with the people of Palestine and in Gaza. So I went to watch a Brazilian match in Rafah. That was one of the happiest moments of my life. Everybody, supporting Brazil, a lot of flags, and we had such fun there. So why do I say all this? Because of these consulate missions, we had the chance to understand the Brazilian community, to understand the geography itself of Rafah, of Gaza, from Gaza North to Rafah to the south. And then when the war broke up, we knew that we had to evacuate the Brazilian citizens from there. So we worked very hard with that, with our embassies in the region, including our embassy, of course, in Cairo, because they went through Egypt. And thank God, no Brazilian was killed in Gaza. We suffered so much to see almost 70,000 deaths in Gaza, 70% or more of that civilians, including women and children. We know that around the amount of bombs dropped in Gaza is equivalent to 5 nuclear bombs. I don't know if you have this, information. 5 nuclear bombs over the heads of more than 2 million people. It's a humanitarian catastrophe.
Without any doubt.
So we were so aware of that we struggled a lot, and thank God we succeeded in evacuating the Brazilians.
Ambassador, you mentioned the Brazilian protection force that was deployed in Gaza in 1956, and this leads me to the question concerning the international force that many people, many states are talking about. And of course, from the Palestinian perspective, if it is to be deployed, it must be for the protection of the Palestinian people, just as you mentioned. And how do you see the role of Brazil in this regard concerning keep the ceasefire holding in Gaza and at the same time to have like a final solution for the conflict? What contribution does Brazil have in this process or may have in the future?
Okay, thank you very much for asking this. This is a very delicate and complex question. Well, I am no longer the Brazilian ambassador to Palestine, so I cannot speak officially on that matter. What I can say is that, of course, Brazil is always at the disposal of peace, of the peace cause all around the world. Brazil has been present in many peacekeeping missions since, the 1950s. The last ones were in Haiti, but we were, of course, in Lebanon and in Africa, many in Latin America. So Brazil has a very large experience in peacekeeping missions. The societies that require peacekeeping, we understand the needs of the population, because inside Brazil, we have people that also suffer a lot from poverty, from malnutrition, from security problems. So the Brazilian troops understand, and they interact much easier with the local populations wherever they are, in the Middle East, in Africa, in Latin America, elsewhere. So the Brazilian soldiers, they know how to deal with the local population, because they understand their situation, because we see sometimes their own situation as the situation inside Brazil, the poor areas of Brazil. So so Brazil is always at the disposal of the United Nations, of course, of all the actors in the region, especially in Palestine. Whatever we can do to help, we're there, and we're willing to help and to build peace. But again, I'm no longer the ambassador to Palestine. I just can say that Brazil has the history of peacekeeping operations, and we work with peace building and peace maintenance, not peace enforcement. Peace enforcement is something else. It's imposing peace.
Yeah, sure.
We do not impose peace. Peace is something that goes from within, And of course, the local actors, the local society must have a say in all of this. Nothing can be made without the participation of the local population.
Yes, and Ambassador, on the personal level, you lived in Jerusalem for a period of time. You lived in Ramallah. You went through the different Palestinian towns and villages, just as you mentioned. How this experience affected your own views on faith, humanity, and diplomacy? And I think that these items are discussed in the final section of your book. Yeah,
that is right. That is right. One of these sub-chapters is dedicated to Jerusalem. Well, Jerusalem is Al-Quds, right? So, by the way, I try to learn some Arabic, and that's one of my, frustrations. I cannot speak Arabic. I just some expressions.
Yes.
But anyway, yes, I lived in Sheikh Jarrah, in Jerusalem, in the eastern part of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem, of course, is it's a tremendous city. You walk in Jerusalem, you walk through 4,000 years of history. Every stone has history, and you see the intermarriage of many civilizations dating back from the Canaanites and you see the Greeks, the Jews, the Romans, of course the Arabs and the Orthodox and the Catholics, and Russians and also Jerusalem is an amazing metropole, and you get fond of Jerusalem. I live it like a 20-minute walk only from the old city. So almost every day I would, walk inside the old city just to feel it, just to feel the history. Of course, it's a history filled with tragedy.
Yes.
And, we see the suffering, we see the oppression, and also we see the beauty of all this, the history during the bombings and the missiles going from one side and the other. I was inside Jerusalem. I saw in the sky, the missiles going one way and the other, and so all this was a tremendous experience for me. And every day I would drive from Jerusalem to Ramallah, so walking through, the checkpoint and see the change from, the modern city of Jerusalem, and then the occupation, and then the checkpoint, and then the areas C, B, and A of Palestine. So all these transitions I saw every day, and it's really quite impressive to any soul to see this. And to see the suffering of the people. I mean, it's important to understand that people are suffering there. You know, you cannot make politics and make big decisions of peace or whatever without understanding the suffering of the people, the suffering of families, you know, the oppression, and also the desire for peace that I see this everywhere. I mean, people can no longer put up with such suffering, and all the policymakers and all the diplomats and all the leaders have to understand this as a common ground. People are suffering on both sides.
Yes, yes. And my final question to you, Ambassador Alessandro, what would you like your readers to take away from the book Pilgrimage and War, Notes of a Diplomat in the Holy Land?
Thank you, my dear friend. This is a very deep question, and I think my answer would be see people as people, not as a representative of any religion or state or ideology. Okay, talk to people as people. See the person, look at the eyes, try to understand what happened to their families, the suffering, you know, their hopes, the suffering of families that lost their kids or their kids are in prison. Or, as we were saying, they would like to gather the family and to go to harvest their olives, but they cannot. To sit down, you know, and to have you know, a good meal, a delicious haruf and maklub, you know, and all the sweets and knafe and all this, sitting together, and this is peace. I mean, the Palestinian people deserves to live in security, deserves to live in peace, you know, as well as the Israeli also. I mean, there is a potential for peace. Even though we do not see, I see the images there, the destruction there in Gaza, just behind you, people crying, suffering, the kids, you know. Yes, all this is true. And all this generation will be profoundly and forever affected by what happened. But the Palestinian people is resilient, it is brave, and it has hope, and it will overcome all this, because it has overcome other periods of war and destruction also. And there is, yes, possibility for peace. But we, so to finally answer to your question, see the other person as just a person, not as representative of one state or the other, one religion or the other, but just a person, okay, the name, and see how it is suffering and recognize the sufferings of the other so that the other can recognize your own suffering. And see, the Holy Land is not a land to make people spiritual. It is a land to make people more human, more, you know, to have empathy with the other. I think this is the final message I'd like my readers to absorb and to collect from this book.
Mr. Ambassador Alessandro, it has been a great pleasure having you on our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My dear friend, thank you so much. It's such an honor. Please embrace all your friends and my dear Palestine. I'm missing you, and I hope to be back someday.
Thank you very much. You're welcome anytime. It's your second home.
And good luck to the Miss Palestine. I want Miss Palestine to be the Miss Universe. She's beautiful, and she represents very well the spirit and the happiness and the strength of Palestine. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, and from me, Usama Nazal. Have a nice time.